The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Solomon, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made for me, and I have hallowed this house, which you have built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And if you walk before me as David your father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom upon Israel forever. And as I promised to David your father, there shall never fail to be a man upon the throne of Israel. But if you and your children shall turn away from following me, and from keeping my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel out of the land which I have given thee. And this house, which I have hallowed for my name, will I cast out of my sight. And Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among people. And this high house, everyone that passes by will be astonished and shall hiss. And they shall say, why hath the Lord done this unto this land and unto this house? And they shall answer, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods, and have worshipped them, and served them. Therefore, the Lord has brought this evil upon all of them.
King Solomon has successfully pulled off the largest infrastructure development in Israel's history to this point. Now this week we are exploring some of the other things that Solomon was up to during this period as we discuss 1 Kings chapter 9. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right. Welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay
and Earl Roberts. Hopefully everyone had a great week. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, man. So how's your week been?
My week was 50-50. Week was 50-50. It started to pick up towards the end of the week. Whereas if I had even considered that, I would have get things out of the way earlier. You see what I'm saying? When I had free time, So this ain't one of them weeks where I just felt overworked and just ain't really had too much on my plate. You feel me? I just was not a good steward. That kind of contributed, to a heavy Friday, I'd say.
Boy, I tell you,
real talk.
This Friday has been something else, man. Like, when you start off your day thinking you're going to focus on one thing, and it's going to be the only thing you focus on. But midway through, your focus changed. And right after that, your focus has to change again. You're like, and by the end of the day, you're like, I didn't even get done what I needed, like what I wanted to get done today. But I got a lot of other stuff done that I didn't know were priorities. We call them like fire drills in the engineering industry.
Okay.
But that was really my Friday. My Friday just turned out to be way busier than I had previously anticipated. I thought it was actually going to be a pretty chill day. I was sorely mistaken.
Real talk.
Sorely mistaken.
Little did he know.
Yeah, let's see. Weekly thought. So I was reading Proverbs today, right? Proverbs 21. And it was actually pretty interesting, right? But one thing, a couple of things that stood to me. It was like a call back to Samuel for one of them. I think it was, I know the one I actually want to talk about, but when I was reading it, let's see, scroll up. It was Proverbs 21, verse, pardon my sound effects.
I was reading a proverb today.
Go for it.
So I was supposed to go to the gym this morning. I ended up going like later on today, but it was storming rain outside. I talked about
Yeah, but it did rain a lot today.
We were talking, it's already pretty cool, cold front or whatever. So
outside, it's pretty chilly. Mm-hmm.
So for me to go outside during this storm, you know what I mean, on the cold, if it was summer, I would have weathered this rain, get to the gym, because in the morning is the best time of day for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I kid you not, bro. I was supposed to leave at 7. By like 8 o'clock, the rain had subsided. And I just thought to myself, bro, if I knew how temporary this rain was, I would have just bit the bullet. And it reminded me of a song my mom used to tell us, a proverb. I'm sorry. I can't remember the proverb, but I'll just say the sentiment, then I'll look it up. It says like, the slothful man says, there's a lion in the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just basically saying like, when you're lazy, you just really look for any excuse to don't do something. Or like you already didn't want to do it, and now you have an excuse. Oh yeah, I ain't going. And as a child, I used to think, bro, but a lion is in the street, bro. Like, why you leaving your house?
Mm-hmm.
But it just go to show how like sometimes when you don't want to do something, you just need a reason. And I was a little disappointed because I like, bro, I should have brought, if I really was just like thinking nothing would stop me from achieving this goal, I would have went through the rain. But by the grace of God, I ended up going on my lunch break to work out because I did not want to lose a day.
Yeah, you don't want to break that momentum.
Yeah.
But Proverbs 21 verse 3, to do righteous and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. And that reminds me in Samuel where Samuel told King Saul, obedience is better than sacrifice. Yep. And we see Solomon saying righteous and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice, which essentially is obedience. Like God asks you to do certain things and he's saying like, being obedient, following my word, doing what I say is righteous is more obedient, is more pleasing to me than any sacrifice you can offer. But the verse that kind of got me today was, he who follows righteousness and mercy finds life, righteousness, and honor. And depending on which translation you read, it says, whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. And I don't know, man, like to me, that was just kind of, when something just hits you? That just hit me, man, because it's like, whoever pursues righteousness, finds life. And the part that got, like the part that kind of like, feel like the Holy Spirit be talking to you and your brain just starts to wonder. And it's like, man, whoever pursues righteousness, and in today's world, right? Today's society, righteousness ain't popular, it ain't cool, you know what I'm saying? It ain't trendy. You kind of have to go against the grain to actually like be righteous. You have to like, go against the crowd. But it is through that you find, life. And it's like, I think it was when Jesus said, whoever loses life for me, shall have life eternal, something like that, something along those lines.
Matthew 10, verse 39. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loses his life for my sake shall find it.
Exactly. And it just reminded me of that, man. Like you pursuing righteousness, you kind of probably sacrificing some of the things you want in this world, some of the, hanging out with some of your friends, going to some of the places you want to go, being in environments you shouldn't be in the pursuit of righteousness. And it might be hard, but at the same time, what are you gaining in the end?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gaining? And it's like you literally gaining. God saying the things you think you're giving up, I have so much more better plan for you. So don't just look at the temporary discomforts. Look at the eternal blessings. I know I'm saying the eternal prosperity. So no, it just gave me a brief pause to today while I saw that and just made me think and reflect.
It's so funny, bro, because like certain things don't have relevance until you are a certain part in your life.
Fox.
I remember it was this lady, bro. I feel like at every church got one of these, bros. The prayer warrior. You know what I mean? The one who's pray for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, bro. Like you can't even hail her without her trying to pray for you. You know what I mean? Like the older people in the church who really look like they topped in. I remember one day, I can't remember what this was. Might have been prayer meeting. And she said, bro, I was really meditating on John 3 and 16, right? And it was like, for God so loved her. And like, you could tell this really was a revelation for her. But me as a little boy, I was like, bro, everybody knows John 3 and 16. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, bro, what you mean? What you mean this really just hitting you, bro? Like, what you been doing? You know what I mean? But it just go to show, bro, like when you at a certain point in time, you could grasp some of the magnitude of what's being said. And that's the thing with the Bible, bro. Like you could, at every layer, you could get something from it. Bro, how long we learn? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. You know what I mean? That's the same. That's the same premise. Like he who's like finds his life shall lose it. He who loses his life for my sake shall find it. But it ain't until you actually hover, like you at a certain level in life and mentally that you actually could really absorb what this really saying. It ain't until you at a place where I really could chase the money and I probably will be successful that you realize that, for me to chase righteousness, I actually have to take a completely different pivot. But you telling me this gonna be a better path in the end? If you don't have the opportunity to even make this decision, this text or this type of wisdom or stuff of this level, it might not touch you the same way as if it's actually applicable to you.
And that's a complete fact, bro. That's a complete fact, man. It's like at any point in life when you read the Bible, you can get something new from it. And that's like the beauty of the book. You know what I'm saying? Like you can read the Bible 100 times and it's something that you simply forget. Man, I remember last episode we were talking about, I was trying to bring back up the story of David and the me and I see you were like, that story really exited my brain.
Yeah, but I was even thinking about another story that exited my brain. But this one was an even closer story. I just was out of it, bro. I know.
but stuff like that happens. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, you would be literally like, I'm like, even during the podcast, man, it's stuff I know I've read before. I'm like, bro, I did not know this was here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the one thing I do like about the podcast, because even like sometimes you read it again, and then when it's time for the episode, you read it again, and you're like, oh, there's something different. It's a whole different context I understand this with now.
I just wonder how I would understand the Bible if I didn't have to like talk about it on air.
Like Fox, bro.
I know, bro.
Like Fox, even last episode when I was reading the Solomon's Prayer, I was like, whoa, this pretty deep when you read it out loud.
It's pretty deep, bro.
And speaking of Solomon's Prayer, last episode we were reading from 1 Kings chapter 8. Solomon dedicated the temple, and he had what I feel should be a way more famous prayer, way more notable prayer than it is. But his prayer was really powerful. Essentially, he was just asking for God to one, accept the temple as a dedication, acknowledging God as the God who made the covenant with their forefathers, and just asking the Lord, hey, Lord, we know we're not a perfect people, but whenever we mess up, whenever we fall, whenever we stumble, whenever we pray to you with all our heart, will you hear our cry and honor our requests? And to me, it was so deep, personally, because it just shows, one, the goodness of God, and to me, it's going to have way more impact when we get further in the Bible and actually go more through the story of the Israelites and actually understand how more relevant this prayer even was. And so that was last week's episode. Definitely go back and check it out. It's probably called Temple's Dedication or something to that effect, because we haven't released it yet. So definitely go and check it out. Again, if you like our content, please share it with a friend. Please comment below. I know I haven't asked that in a very long time, but it definitely do help our podcast reach more people. So if you like our content, whatever streaming platform you're on, give it a rating. If you're on Spotify, you can leave a comment on Spotify. If you're listening on streaming, I beg you to go on YouTube, like it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to it. You know what? That's presumptuous of me. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Be honest. I want you to be honest. But leave a comment.
Right, and the fact of the matter is, we have a goal. You know, we have an actual subscriber count that we need to meet. You know, to be able to take our stuff to the next level. You know, so if you have not subscribed, you know, please do tell a friend. You know, sometimes you can kind of take for granted certain things, right? I have certain videos and podcasts and audio stuff that I listen to throughout the week, and I'm becoming so dependent on that. It's to the point where if I'm sitting in absolute silence, I can't be productive unless I'm doing something like where I have to speak. But I have, like at work, I have to listen to something, and not music. I have to listen to someone talk, you know, keeps my mind stimulated as I do tasks, because a lot of things I do is like kind of methodical. Mm-hmm. And I do think sometimes, bro, I wish that, and not in a narcissistic way, but I do wish that it was young men, you know what I mean, who have fun, you see what I'm saying, my age, breaking down the Bible, you know what I mean? Like, I have friends that, and people who truly enjoy the podcast because we bring just a different type of flavor than certain other people. Like, anyone can do it, for sure, you know what I'm saying? But how common is that, you know?
That's a fact.
Two young men, we ain't pastors, we ain't theologians, we just analysts for real. You know what I'm saying? We reading the Bible, we analyzing it, you know what I'm saying? And we try to bring a necessary word. And if this is something that has brought value to you, you know what I'm saying? I definitely encourage you to subscribe, you know, share it, etc. But, you know, no pressure, but, you know, that's something I think would be beneficial to others as well.
You know, as I hear another YouTuber say, it's really a free form of support. We ain't asking you to buy a t-shirt yet. We ain't asking you to donate on Patreon. Simple subscribe and a like. But hopefully, you know, do as your heart contents. So this week, man, pray for me in this cough. This week we are in 1 Kings chapter 9. This is the shorter chapter from the last 2 weeks, so that's a blessing. And so last week, like I said, this temple was dedicated. One thing I do want to point out too is, like, in last week's episode, there was no immediate
response
from God. But if you read the account in First Chronicle, and then I think it's actually Second Chronicles 7. I think it's Second Chronicles 7. But you see, if you read Second Chronicles 7, I hope it's Second Chronicles 7, it's you see when, like, the fire of God actually came down and consumed the sacrifices as soon as Solomon had finished praying. So we see there was an immediate response from God then, and that only comes in to play now because we're gonna, you know, get a response from God in a different sense. So reading in verse, do you have anything to say?
Second Chronicles 7 confirmed.
Oh, perfecto. Whew. He's always been on a limb, boy. When you
real talk, because it's like, do I want to stop the flow to be precise? You know.
Yeah. Oh my. Whew. Feel good about that one. Okay, so in verse 1 in 1 Kings chapter 9, hashtag book 1 of Solomon. The funny thing is, the whole book don't even talk about Solomon.
Right, neither did he probably write it, you know. Exactly. Didn't write it.
Exactly. In verse 1, and it came to pass when Solomon had finished building the house of the Lord and the king's house and all Solomon's desire, which he wanted to do, the Lord appeared to Solomon for a second time, and he appeared to him at Gibeon. This is a tangent, I know. Forgive me, right? But you ever been so consumed in a goal, right? For context, the temple, his house, and all the furnishings took about 22 to 24 years. So I think about this being your main focus for almost 2.5 decades. And we already established like 5 episodes ago, Solomon was a king during peace times. So it ain't like you got wars and stuff. Now that's a time when you almost have nothing to do. Just see, like I almost can see why God come to him during this time now, because it's like, yeah, you have nothing to do now. And it's like once you accomplish that, you just be in a sense of like what to do next type thing. Like, oh wow, I've accomplished the goal. Now what? You don't know where to shift your focus yet. You don't know where to like what you want to take on next. And so, I mean, like, even last year after I finished my exam, I was like, oh, okay, that's done. Right. Now what am I going to do with my evenings? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, there's always this time to like refocus and readjust and figure out what's happening. And to think about it too, remember, this is the time when David kind of slipped up. Because remember, after David finished all of his raids and his conquering and the expansion of territory, there was a time when he was like, oh, I have nothing left to do. And that was when he fell into his precipitous downfall.
Yeah.
So just kind of some of the context of what Solomon was actually kind of like going through now at this point, what he was feeling. So now we see the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, and he appeared to him at Gibeon. And the Lord said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have consecrated this house, the temple, which you have built and put my name there forever. And my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. In verse 4, now if you walk before me as your father David walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and if you keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, as I promised your father David, saying, you shall not fail to have a man on the throne of Israel. But if you and your sons turn from following me and do not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land which I gave them. And this house which I have consecrated for my name will be cast out of my sight. Israel will be a proverb and a byword amongst all peoples. And as for this house, this land, as for this house which is exalted, everyone who passed by it will be astonished and will hiss and say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? Then they will answer, because they forsook the Lord their God and brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and embraced other gods and worshiped them and served them. Therefore, the Lord has brought calamity onto them.
So my question is, bro.
Go for it.
Oh, this might be a heavy question though, but
go for it.
I don't understand how Jews, bro, or like people that study Judaism, like can read the Old Testament and disregard that Jesus is Lord. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of Jews. I mean, I think most Jews, they don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. You know what I'm saying? Like
they're still waiting
on their Messiah. I don't know much, but the nation. So you know, I don't wish to talk a lot about it. But think about it, bro. About 30 plus years after Jesus died, the temple was destroyed, right? And Solomon already say, bro, when the temple is when you see the destruction of the temple, but the only thing people could say is, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And then the answer would be, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought their fathers out of Egypt, etc. So you forsook God, the God of Jacob, and all of those things. Now, some could argue, oh, that had nothing to do with Jesus. Just so happened this happened after, like, Jesus, this and that and the third. But Jesus prophesied it, bro. This temple will be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, he prophesied it, bro. Who could have seen it coming? The disciples was like, bro, it took so much men to build this temple. You understand? But it surely was destroyed. It surely was destroyed afterward. And that's one of the things that I really gained from reading Great Controversy, chapter 1. And that really, bro, talk about how something really hit you, but this stuff that we remember when Jesus talked about the temple, a lot of people thought he was meaning his particular body, because he said, if you destroy this temple, I'll rebuild it in 3 days, this is not in the third. But when Jesus stood over Jerusalem, he was in tears.
Mm-hmm.
This is an emotional time before he even get there. And if you read like a few of the Gospels and understand this account of like Jesus' last couple of days in Jerusalem, he cried like, bro, like they didn't even know what's going on. And then when they get around the temple, he tell the disciples, bro, they was marveling at how good a job Herod did. And Jesus was like, bro, truly, not one stone would be left unturned, But that was like a mystery. 30 years later, it happened. My thing is, bro, I used to I was missing a puzzle piece and having complete faith that Jesus is like God and he's the right God. It's so many gods. You know what I mean? Some people think we are gods. And if we are gods, there's 7 billion plus gods out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was missing this puzzle piece until I realized that Jesus was prophetic. A lot of the things Jesus prophesied, it's like revelation stuff, like end time stuff. So it's like, who can know whether this come true? So if you're looking for to say, did Jesus prophesy? Yes, he did. He prophesied at the temple, that the temple would be destroyed. And then even before that, during Matthew 10, he prophesied how to flee when the wars is about to come. You know what I mean? When you see the chariots circling the city, that's your time to go. That's a warning sign, X, Y, Z. And all of these things happened during the Jewish revolt, and that's how come a lot of Christians were able to flee during this time. This is history and Bible, colliding, with each other. And that's just the last time the temple was built. So even right now, if we look and say, why isn't the temple built based on this verse? We could look and say, why is the temple destroyed? Why do they do not have a temple, And the answer could be said, because they forsook the Lord their God. You understand? Jesus was among them, bro. The promised one, right? The one who God sent because he loved us so much was right there. And they forsook him,
That's a fact.
And we can see the impacts of that. But this isn't, obviously this isn't the first time, but I was just speaking to the last time it happened.
Yeah, I was just gonna make this distinction because you said it, but it was like so subtle that people might not get it. Like this, the temple you're referring to is Herod's temple that was destroyed by the Romans, essentially. Solomon's temple we will see later on down, but Solomon's temple was destroyed when Nebuchadnezzar those came and conquered Jerusalem for the first time. Yep. But it still leads to the same point. Why were the temples destroyed? And naturally, both points still remain the same. Because what's funny, and going back to Solomon's prayer, right? We went into so much depth in it last episode. I don't want to rehash those points because I definitely want people to go back and check it out, right? But how detailed Solomon's prayer was, right? Lord, when we do get captured, essentially, you know what I'm saying? And these type of things, right? But what gets me is you see God saying, all right, I heard your prayer, right? But buddy, I'm still God. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still run the show. So let me tell you how this could work, right? Buddy, you follow me and keep my commandments, everything good.
Yep. Now
you turn your back away from me. I hear your prayer, but let me tell you what's still gonna happen. Like, sometimes I really just picture God like our parents, bro. Like, I see my mommy and my dad just saying, hey, all right, I hear you. You want to do that? Let me tell you how this could work. It ain't matter. When we as kids, right, we come with our plan. All right, yeah, so if I do this and do this, right, mommy and daddy should give me this.
Trying to find a loophole.
Exactly. God saying, no. Let me break this down for you. I hear your prayer. I understand this. But buddy, don't think you can worship God, other gods, and my presence can stay in this temple. And don't think when my presence leaves, things just could be hunky-dory. No, you will experience serious ramifications for your actions.
See, and it's like, God knows the future. You know how, let's say you privy to some information, right? Like it's a game called Mafia, right? Sometimes you might know who, and the objective is for the majority of the room to discover who among us is like a traitor or whatever, the bad guy. You see what I'm saying? You might be privy to some information as to who is the bad guy. You can't come out and say, hey, XYZ. But you wanna strongly insist, hey, don't do this. God knows the future, bro. Like God understands what is going to happen to Israel. God understands what is going to happen to Solomon. So I must make this painfully clear. If you follow me and keep my precepts, you are good. But if you don't, and specifically if you worship other gods, because there's many ways to sin. But now you breaking the first and second commandment specifically, bro. This is not going to end well. These are facts. Your input will result in your output. It will determine your output. You know, like the choice is yours. And Moses been saying this, bro. Choose life. Choose life. From Moses' time, he was saying, bro.
Or like 500 years ago, bro. That's still wild to me.
500 years ago, bro. 500 years ago.
That's wild, bro.
You're drunk.
It's like, it's unfathomable. I don't want to break your point. Keep going. Keep
Remember,
going.
500 years ago, Moses was saying, bro, if you worship God, good things happen. Worship idols, bad things happen. Worship God, good things happen. Worship idols, bad things happen. You know what I mean? Like, in a
rudimentary break it down like a kindergarten.
Real talk. So, like, what we doing here? What are we gonna choose? If I put that, in front of you like that, what we could choose? No? Oh man.
But it's still like, man, it's so interesting, man. Because think about it, man. These guys at this point, they already have the knowledge of Moses. They already know the stories of Moses. They know his speech. You know what I'm saying? Like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy probably are already scrolls at this time. No cap. You know what I'm saying? They're like probably already scrolls that these guys are reading and have access to. And plus, we know this because when we get to some of the other kings, we know when they take the ancient scrolls out about the goodness of God and stuff like that, and they have to read it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I ain't even making this up. These were legit scrolls at this time. These kings would go back and read. The people had access to this knowledge. So you're reading when Moses was on the mountain and saying, "Yo, but these are my pardon words to you guys. Choose life." We see God come and telling Solomon this again. Hey, bro. And plus, he came to David and essentially say the same thing to David, which is probably recorded as we see because we're reading it now. And he's coming to Solomon and saying the same thing. Hey, bro, if you just keep my commandments. And what's even like, we talked about this pre-pod. He say, he ain't asked him to be perfect. He say, if you walk before me as your father David walked. And man, we already raked David over the coals.
Yeah, dog.
So we know David wasn't no peach on the beach, no saint holier than thou. But what's beautiful about that is God ain't saying be no saint holier than thou. God's saying be like David.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The same David who done killed Uriah, then killed many people who was questionable, then spent like 3 years in Philistine, killing all these other people. You know what I'm saying?
Because the plagues come on Israel, you know what I mean? Because he wanted to count the people.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we know that David still was a man after God's own heart. And it's crazy because he was such a big sinner, but it still shows that the connection he had with God, where he know where to go when things hit the fan, and just constantly seek God in times of trouble. God say, be like your father David. You know what I'm saying? Be willing to earnestly seek me in the times of trouble and not run away from the consequences. Just be like David. You know what I'm saying? Have that connection like David.
Yeah.
To me, go for it.
Proverbs 24, verse 16, the righteous man falleth 7 times. You understand what I'm saying? And rise it up again. You know, he ain't saying never fall. He never say that. Like God realistic. He given us, bro, everyday people, commandments that are obeyable, you know? But, you know, people want to make it seem like, even back then, bro, they want to make it seem like it's this yoke too impossible, you know, like it's impossible to don't do these things.
Oh, that's a fact, bro. Like people be acting like it's such a tall task, but God's saying, like, it's so funny because God's saying, bro, I ain't even asking that much of you. Literally, I'm asking you to do exactly what your father did. That's all. Keep that. Don't worship other gods. You know what I'm saying? Literally, don't worship other gods.
That's what I'm saying. We have David. When I was preaching my sermon on I think Psalm 68, creating me a clean heart. I was saying how David was trying to break every commandment at once. You know what I mean? Like
murder, adultery, coveting, lying.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, he trying to break them all at one time, bro. But you know what he didn't do? He didn't worship idols. You see what I'm saying? Like, you see how it's like, it's one thing to be in a spiritual battle every day, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle against spirits, bro. That's 100% biblical, you know? That's what our struggle is. You know, this ain't like a regular or choices thing, bro. This spiritual warfare daily, right? And we do not win a lot of times. You understand what I'm saying? Some days better than others, right? But at the end of the day, why are you taking the Job approach or the Job's wife approach? Curse God and die. You know what I mean? Even if you don't physically just spit profanity at God, if you decide to say, man, I ain't worshiping you no more. I worshiping something else. You feel me? That's an abomination to God. And we know God is a jealous God. You know, and we know that God is the only one who actually really is God, bro. Like any other spirit, you know what I'm saying, has to bow to God. You feel me? They are created by God and they are subordinates of God, even if they rebellious spirits. So like when it comes to all of these other religions that worship the spirits and all good spirits and, you know, good witchcraft and all of this and that and the third, at the end of the way, why are you going to the second, third, fourth, fifth in command when you have the God of gods, bro? You see what I'm saying? The King of Kings you can worship.
Why buy the knockoff when the real free? That's
real
something,
talk,
man.
bro. That's real talk, bro. Like why, bro? Like, you know? And it boggles my mind, but I still have to tread lightly because somebody wrote this in a way that where we could, it's just black and white. Oh, they worship gods. You know what I mean? But we don't understand the way these things was packaged. Today, in this day and age, bro, I just was on Facebook today. Someone was saying Adventism is a cult, right? This somebody that I went to college with, Adventist college. There's somebody that I used to be around a lot. And I'm just like, bro, how could you be so irresponsible to you? I understand that you hurt, and your hurt is probably valid. You know what I'm saying? But don't mislead people. Don't lie too, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? You speaking as if you was a part of this thing that was dangerous to people and ritualistic and all type of stuff. Bro, this cult is extreme. You know what I mean? I was never, like, I can't speak on behalf of every Adventist, but I never was in any cult like scenario ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, church and home. You know what I mean? Like the most extreme things is when we debate theology, and that should be you should be doing that in every denomination, because the Bible is a complex thing. It's a lot of translations, X, Y, Z. You know what I'm saying? I honestly kind of lost my train of thought what I was even talking about, but I think, all right. So I know it was somewhere around idols and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's a trend now where people, especially Black people, you know, we actually was given a raw deal, especially in America. I feel like the emphasis is bigger in America because even after slavery, they had to deal with so much discrimination, so much bad stuff just happened to them, bro. And I feel like in the islands, we did not, like, there was barriers that, you know, we had to overcome as Black people. But I feel like because we outnumber, you know, other races in the islands, we didn't really have to, we weren't, people weren't prejudiced against us in the same way. So we didn't have the amount of hurdles in Africa, in America, right? And so because of that, it's big emphasis on just reclaiming things, you know, for African Americans. And one of the things they try to reclaim is religion. And they want to say, let's go back to the religion of our ancestors. And, you know, people do research and stuff like that. But borderline, they're basically trying to pray to their ancestors or pray to the spirits, or, you know, they adopt Egyptian type of religion. There's some people Black people who want to adopt Hebrew, but it's just like trying to get back to a certain place. But a lot of times a lot of times they just end up worshiping some type of spirit. You know what I'm saying? whether it being someone that passed away, you know, whether it be like a spirit animal or whatever, you know. Now, if the Bible was written on us today, like people who do those things, who turn from Christianity to do those things, they would say the people turned from God and started worshiping idols, you know, worshiping other gods. You know what I mean? And so it's like the Bible said they worship other gods, but they ain't say the snare that was put in place. So like to me, it's like, bro, why are you worshiping a statue for real? You know what I mean? Like y'all know better than that. Culturally, y'all ain't raised like that, so why y'all turn? But it's the same way how culturally you could be born and raised in the church, regardless of the denomination, and then you turn and say, no, I am embracing this the true religion. You know what I'm saying? I am God. You know, like that's how a lot of people, some people, that's how they giving it up these days. But some people telling you, cool, they are God, you know? And I imagine that the same ratio, there's no way to quantify this, but I imagine that the same ratio of confusion probably happened in their time with the amount of distractions that they had available. And this is why people were so distracted by the idols and the idols were so attractive. Like to me, I can't see myself doing that. You know what I mean? But it's probably something else that's more modern today, what the devil could lay and snare, you know what I'm saying, that I could fall for, you know, if I ain't protected by God, you know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, because the devil definitely has used the methods of the day to entrap people. So it's like today, it's all the cool, quote unquote, stuff like palm reading and all these
Chakras,
all these different stuff that people seem innocent and cute, but it's cool, you know what I'm saying? And people think nothing wrong of it, but you don't know what it's a gateway, opening yourself up to be exposed.
And then if you try to get deep, people just be like, oh man, come on, bro, they ain't that deep, bro. You see what I'm saying? But because if I was to tell you, okay, so we doing this flipping and we want to channel the spirit, right? And if I ask you, is this the Holy Spirit we channeling, right? And then I'm like, bro, I don't see how biblically this is the way that we get the Holy Spirit. Man, God is like, literally, I'm giving you all Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? Like straight up, like we ain't have to go through this and that, you know? Then people will look at me like, man, you thinking too deep. You thinking like I being unreasonable.
Like you tripping now. Use the problem, killing the fun.
But let's be for real though, bro. Like, how much types of spirits you think it is, bro? Like outside of the spirits that align with the Bible. Like to me, it's like it's either hot or cold, bro. You know? And so like if you trying to get it outside the Bible, that means you believe that there's a God.
There's someplace else that's the source.
Right. That you believe that God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, you believe that these guys are not the creator of our world or the Lords of Lords. You know what I'm saying? You believe that there's someone else we could obey that is just as good. And you know what? From a pure black and white perspective, a lot of people, that's very believable. Because think about it, bro. Like, if you pray to the spirit, right, you wouldn't even know the devil behind the spirit, right? Because they package it as whatever. You see what they say? They package it as all type of thing. And you asking for things and you're getting things. As long as this is happening, why would you doubt? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you doubt? You know? And so like it's a lot of deception. It's a lot of deception. I feel like this is a random tangent, but my wife and I, we were just talking about how like we don't talk about spirits. These act like it don't exist, bro. Like we'll mention demons every now and then, but this such a part of everyday life, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I feel like it's best to have conversations and to be aware, you know, to think about it. Because like my thing is, bro, if you believe you're protected by God, bro, like the fear and anxiety behind these things, bro, it shouldn't really be there, to be honest, unless you think God ain't gonna save you. You know what I'm saying? Or unless you think these things more powerful.
I mean, along the lines of this time, I think that's one of the devil's best weapons in this modern century is to get people to stop talking about him. And to stop talking about, you know, the effects and stuff we have. It's almost like you get people to stop talking about it, then it's almost like he doesn't exist anymore.
Very true.
And so he can, it's an even easier way to get people ensnared. You know what I'm saying? Because now you're really tripping.
Yeah, your
like,
defense is all the way down.
Yeah, like what you really talking about now?
Yeah, come on, bro. That wasn't a demon, bro. That was a ghost, or you know what I mean? Or,
that was Casper.
Right.
Anything else from God's appearance to Solomon?
I don't know. I think it's interesting because we can see the continuous exercise of God coming to the leaders of Israel. You know, when it's a leader, it's a big leader. You know, we see God come to them. Excuse me, like Samuel and God come to Samuel, and Samuel wasn't even a leader yet. Samuel was a little boy. God come to Samuel. You know what I mean? God came to David. You know, Isaac. But did he come to Isaac? I don't know. Jacob for sure.
Yeah.
He came to Rebecca in a dream. I know that for sure. You know what I mean?
And she laughed.
Yeah. No, I know. Wait, I think
Isaac laughed.
No,
she laughed.
Sarah.
Oh,
that's Sarah. Sarah
laughed.
Yeah,
Sarah laughed. Yeah. And then Isaac was like, he laughed. My bad.
Right. Because remember we were saying we ain't even know if Isaac did buy that she even saw a vision, because Isaac was like, surely my youngest ain't getting this birthright. My oldest getting the birthright.
Yeah, stubborn bad, babe.
Real dog, bro.
Isaac could have been a Bahamian, babe.
Real dog, bro.
For real. So in verse 10 now it happened at the end of 20 years when Solomon had built the two houses, we know his house and the temple. Hiram, the king of Tyre, had supplied Solomon all the cedar and the cypress and the gold, as well as much as he had desired. Then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then Hiram went from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, but they did not please him. So he said, what kind of cities are these which you have given me, my brother? And then he called the land Kabul, as they are to this day. Then Hiram sent the king 120 talents of gold. So before the board, right? I had to do a little bit of extra history, even outside what I had to tell you before the board, because I even forget to tell you this, right? So I had to do some more research to figure out, like, how did Solomon even get this city, these lands, right? So the land in which Solomon had given, what's his name? Hiram, was actually given to Solomon because Pharaoh gave those lands to Solomon as part of the dowry for his daughter.
Okay.
But when Pharaoh gave Solomon the land, Pharaoh actually went and sacked the city and burned them down.
Yeah, because I was wondering when I read that, I was like, why Pharaoh do, like, why we care? Like, not why we care, but I like this. It's quite interesting. But anyway, continue.
So Pharaoh actually gave Solomon the land. The land was actually kind of like burnt down. He killed everybody. It's like, yeah, okay, Solomon, here you go. Here's some land. So now in context, Solomon turns around and gives this land that's practically useless. I wouldn't say useless. It's not a thriving city, as you would say. It's like, let me not call the nation name. Let me not get in trouble. It's like it was
not flowing with milk and honey.
It was not flowing with milk. It's like you get like a useless key in the Bahamas, bro.
Yeah.
But now it's up to you to turn it into something. It could be the most beautiful paradise, but right now it's just a rock in the middle of the ocean type thing, is what essentially Solomon was trying to give Hiram, right? And so we see Hiram pull up on the scene now and like, because he actually came from Tyre to look at the land now. And he looked, imagine you get there, right? Someone saying, bro, I give you 20 cities. You're like, all right, bet. It's like a good deal. I done give you all this wood and cypress and, help lend the members of my nation to come help you build your temple. 20 cities? All right, bet. You come here now, you looking like, bro, this what you give me? And that was essentially what Hiram said. I was like, hold on, bro. This deal that seems sweet ain't even that sweet no more. And the name he gave them, Kabul, literally translate to good for nothing.
Mm.
So Hiram came to this land and I was like, bro, this is literally useless to me. He renamed the cities good for nothing. And I don't know about you, but I personally don't want to live in no place called good for nothing.
Yeah, and so my old question is, was this malicious? That's what I trying to wonder, bro.
Boy, I know it's a great descendant of Jacob.
You go hold Solomon to the standard of Jacob the supplanter.
Like, man, the whole nation.
All true. I mean, it's the 12 tribes of. Notice they ain't calling the tribes of Jacob, man. It's Israel now. You see what I'm saying? Like that's the old me. You feel me? And so, I do remember that when Solomon and Hiram first met, Solomon was in asking. So, all right. So, 1 Kings 5, verse 6. Now, therefore, command that they cut down cedars for me from Lebanon, and my servants will be with your servants, and I will pay you wages for your servants according to whatever you say. For you remember that? According to whatever you say. And remember, we had said that in the board. Oh, so you just open it, you're just writing a blank check? You know what I mean? Right. For you know, there is none among us who has skill to cut like the Sidonians, right? And so it was when Hiram heard the words of Solomon that he rejoiced greatly. You feel me? So my thing is, bro, it seemed like this was a transaction, and Solomon was saying that, bro, whatever you ask for, I just can pay it. I just can pay it because y'all is the best. You feel me? To me, I see Solomon as a big boss, a high ruler. You know what I mean? Money ain't a thing. You know what I mean? And so I don't know how y'all could have got to the point where right now you feel like you've been underpaid. It's been 20 years, bro. What's happening this whole time, bro? What you saying?
But my thing is, like, even that, right? Why Hiram still send him all that gold after the fact too? Because I thought I should be the one receiving right now.
Hiram should be the one, right? So I think Hiram get paid, bro. You know what I mean? This my belief, and I don't really have biblical backing to support this. Is just how I feel, because Solomon, at this point in time, we don't see any indication that Solomon's heart has turned from God. And even when Solomon's heart was turned from God, we don't know Solomon to be shiesty, you know what I mean? Or a Laban. You feel me? Like this ain't the descendant of Laban. Nah. You feel me? Like, I mean, technically he is though, because like, yeah, you know. But anyway, he didn't take after Laban, I'd say that. Like, I don't have evidence to support that he did. And so my thing is, y'all had a transaction, y'all had a business agreement from the jump. 20 years gone by, y'all going on 2 projects. Now, I believe that Hiram wanted as big a solid from Solomon as Solomon gave, as Hiram did for him, because here it is, we the best of the best in terms of this craftsmanship and resources, right? You paying me for these. Now, I need something, and I expect the best of the best too. So you give me 20 cities, but you don't give me the best of the best cities like that in a fair trade. I could see that being a possibility. But at the end of the day, I feel like Solomon is a man of wisdom. If he give him land that was good for nothing, he's supposed to know this wasn't Hiram ain't taking it. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to know better than that. You feel me? And so that make me believe that Hiram really just he just was underwhelmed, but you know, it is what it is. Like, it's like the parable when Jesus was talking about the denaries and like in the olive field, and you agreed to 1 day denarii, a day's wages. You know what I mean? If you get the day's wages after an hour, after 10 hours straight, you know what I mean? You agree to that. You see what I'm saying? So now if you see how big a high roller I is, it's like when you do work for, like, let's say you're a contractor, right? You have your prices, but you know there's a rich person you're working for. You see what I'm saying?
Some little immediate market inflation.
Right. And you might expect a tip. You know what I mean? You might get a tip that is equal with all the rest of your clients. And you'll be like, what this tip is, man, anyone could do that. You're supposed to do more. You know what I mean? That's just how I see it. But obviously it's just my opinion. You feel me? But the fact of the matter is, Hiram was not okay with them cities.
No, Harvey Clay took it as a diss. But it's still interesting that even after that, he still sent Solomon all that gold. And for reference, that gold is equivalent to like $200 million in 2023 prices. So that's a lot of gold, ladies and gentlemen. That's a lot of gold to just send after you got some cities you didn't like. I wasn't going to send it.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like you're trying to buy land in this country. You know the only way you could get land in this country at all is to the king have to give it to you, right? But he ain't giving it to you. It's like when people when Jordans was hot. Sometimes you needed a ticket just to get in line. So you might have to buy a ticket for $50 just to get in line to buy the shoes for $200. You see what I'm saying? So Solomon give you a ticket, bro. He give you a way to have land in our land. You see what I'm saying? But he probably still had to buy the land at the end of the day. That's the way I receive it. I'm not too familiar with this type of culture. But he should have just said no, bro. If you ain't want the land, like
yeah, bro. Solomon, I ain't gonna lie. You could keep this. This ain't doing me no good.
Solomon, you do me bad, bro. I give you all the best lumber. You know what I mean? That's what you give me? This burn up city that was stolen.
I did deforest my whole country.
Real talk.
You got a whole room called the Forest of Lebanon and thing.
Right. And this ain't like Israel where in the 7 year we can't like cut down nothing. We just going straight through.
Extortion.
Real talk.
All right, let's end this bad boy out. So in verse 15, and this is the reason for the labor force in which King Solomon had raised to build the house of the Lord, his own house, the Milio, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Jazer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Jazer and burned it with fire, had killed the Canaanites who dwelt in the city and had given it to dowry to Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer, Lower Beth Horon, Baalath, Tadmor in the wilderness in the land of Judah, and all the storage cities. Solomon had cities for his chariots and cities for his cavalry and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and all of his dominion. So we see Solomon built a lot in those 20 years. He's just on a building spree. Because it was just, so we see it was more than just a temple and his house. He was building the city wall that's gonna come, that's the whole story of Eshrei.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We see in the origins in this quick passage on some stories where the whole books are dedicated around. And so we see Solomon really, he was an infrastructure guru.
Yeah, he set them up. He set them up solid.
And so in verse 20, the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, it's so funny every time I read these now. Ain't they supposed to be living? They're supposed to deal with these people so long ago, and now we just see
the same people do. They should have been a faint memory. You don't have the Amalekites say who God was supposed to blot their name out.
Yeah, I think it was the Amalekites, but they get
you don't hear but them. You see what I said? But the Amorites and the Hittites,
Perizzites, Hivites, boy, they just they still around, going strong. And the Bible says, these tribes who are not the children of Israel, that is, their descendants who are left in the land after them, whom children of Israel had not been able to destroy completely.
Don't forget.
I got the Bible say, hey, just letting y'all know it's a friendly reminder of why these people still around. Hey, just in case you tired of hearing them, we tired of writing them.
Yeah, dog.
From these, Solomon raised forced labor. That's mean, as it is to this day. But of the children of Israel, Solomon made no forced laborers, because they were men of war, and his servants, his officers, his captains, commanders, chariots, and cavalry. Ouch.
Solomon wants slaves.
I don't know how to feel, but that's Solomon.
Solomon starting to show little. This might have been why you thought Solomon try to swindle around with them cities.
So what get me right. Well, I didn't say what get me, but what I'm trying to understand is was this wrong? Because God never said to make them slaves, but God said to drive them out of the land. And just because you insert it doesn't mean you're still following God's command. So I don't know if this is like a point where Solomon was literally just going rogue, because we see God ain't telling him to do this. This kind of I'm just making y'all do this because I have the authority type thing, but it's not. God ain't telling him to do this. So like it ain't even like God condoning this. God said, yo, drive these people out of the land. God never said make them your slaves.
And you know what? This might add to a different point. Next chapter and the chapter later, we see the way Solomon mingled with other nations. This might kind of show that this was a compromise of his. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's interesting. That's something like to your point, we could keep an eye on and see how it fits into the greater narrative of the story. In verse 23, others were chiefs of the officials who were over Solomon's work, 550 who ruled over the people who did the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house which Solomon had built for her. Then he built the Milo. You know what that is? I was supposed to Google it. I have no idea what that is.
You don't know, say. But we hearing, but this Pharaoh daughter, Pharaoh any daughter, we hearing plenty.
Yeah, they shine in this shop though.
Real talk. I mean, this storyline, we keep hearing, but Pharaoh's daughter. You see what I'm saying? Quite interesting because they even name dropped the Pharaoh. You see what I'm saying in another chapter? I'm like, oh, when this start happening?
That's strange. This wouldn't happen in Exodus.
No. And then sometimes I wish, bro, we could have, I don't know, just the nerd in me kind of wish we could have find the annals of the kings of Israel and actually read some of these stories a little more. You know what I mean?
You know what's so funny too? Like I feel the same way, but sometimes, and this is a hot take, so take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes I feel like God had some of those stuff purposely destroyed to test our faith. Because when you have so much information, the less faith you need to have. You know what I'm saying? So it's like certain things is like, yo, are you going to have faith with what you have and trust what I say is true? And it does, I'm trying to say this like on a fine line, because I'm not saying it doesn't negate the earning and the need to verify scripture and verify the truth and have a deeper search. But at the same time, it's like you only can know so much. Right.
No, see, from the perspective of we have biblically what these people do, right? Like watch this. Samson was judged for 20 years, right? We only knew when but the only thing the Bible writes is when Samson have a new girlfriend. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Stop it.
20 years this man was judging. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it do be interesting. I love to pick on Samson, brother.
Yeah, man.
I love to pick on Samson.
I can't wait till you get to talk to Samson in heaven.
My money ain't gonna be the space in heaven. You trying to provoke me? I don't know, bro. I don't know who could be in heaven. I pray to God that I'm there. I pray to God that all of my friends are following the people in the Bible there. But when we get there, bro. Yeah, I know Judas ain't gonna be there. The Bible says it was better that he was never even born, bro. That's what Jesus say, bro. Bro, but what's it called? I'm already gonna be this hard. If I get to see Samson's face, I always was a fan of you, Samson. You know what I mean? Like,
man, how does it feel to be the strongest man ever?
Grabbing on him muscle today. Hey, Samson, it's still on the good side. But
go for it.
I can't remember.
I was gonna say yes. Fair of them is getting they shine this episode.
Yeah.
All right, we got like 4 verses left. Now, 3 times a year, Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he had built for the Lord. And he burnt incense with them on the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the temple. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Geber, which is near Elath on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. Then Hiram sent his servant with the fleet, seamen who knows the sea, to work with the servants of Solomon. And then they went to Ophir and acquired 420 talents of gold from there and bought it to King Solomon. My boy opened up a trading route.
But is this the first time we hear the ship in the Bible so far?
No, I mean, because they just float the logs there on ship.
On rafts, right?
On rafts, yeah.
Right, but I'm talking about you traveling via water. You said they say into another country. Like, I know.
I mean, well, potentially.
No, I mean, obviously it was there, but I'm saying
yeah. But explicitly stated now.
Right, before, like, do we, like, is there any emphasis on that before? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think so.
But yeah, that ends First Kings chapter 9.
Pretty, See, there's another one that ain't too much narrative. But it's a lot. So it's a lot to dissect in this chapter, I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, because I at first I thought we was gonna make it to chapter 10.
Yeah, I thought so too. But obviously tangents. But it's cool though.
Mm-hmm.
That one could have its own one because
that's a lot too.
Yeah, that's when we start unpacking. And then chapter 11, but I ain't going for 40 that day. I ain't going crazy that episode.
Yeah, that's the end of Solomon at that point.
Real dog. I unload in the chamber on that, bro.
Oh, it's emptying the clip.
I emptying the clip, bro, because I really want to dissect him, right?
Boy, say something off. He gotta get something off his chest.
I'm gonna get something off my chest for them, but I ain't had an outlet, bro, because he doing good. You know what I mean? He doing good, and so I want.
David had a long decline, so it's easy to pick on David
for sure. When you start, you ain't can stop. You see what I say? Like, because David almost never catch himself for real, bro. You see what I say?
They wrap up Solomon quick. They say, but you get one chapter.
They wrap him up. They wrap him up quick. They wrap him up quick, but it's like, bro. I feel like the damage he do, bro, that's more than one chapter. That's more than one chapter, bro. Solomon.
Bro, he did anyway. We can save it. We can save it. We gotta save it. We gotta save it. We gotta save it.
Let me on my tongue.
We gotta save it. We too close to ruin that surprise.
Boy, I put something burning in me, but I got self-control.
Yeah,
right
boy.
now, bro.
Yeah, boy. You gotta hold it in. You gotta hold it in. Anyway, so what are your thoughts on this chapter?
Solomon is enigmatic, bro. I can't tell.
What is your thoughts on this chapter?
On this chapter.
All right.
He had a point right now where it's like, I can't tell if what he's doing is good or bad, right? But all right, let's just take the concept of good and evil out of it, if that's possible. But from a king's perspective, right? You remember when it was so many Israelites in Egypt to the Pharaoh was like, bro, I putting you all awake. Mm-hmm. You see what they saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a similar situation with with Solomon and the Hittites and Amorites, etc. He look at them as a potential threat, and he like, bro, I keeping you all occupied. You see what they saying? I putting you all to work, but you see what they say about Israel? Oh no, he didn't do that. They was the fighting men. You see what I saying? And so my thing is, if I being for real, very Pharaoh-esque, might be why they keep name dropping, not name dropping, but mentioning Pharaoh here, because this is your father-in-law, right? This is a parallel right here, and this is your father-in-law. And
nothing in the Bible by accident, eh?
You talk, and he'll do a lot for you. He'll even kill people from 20 cities. Now let's think about that, bro. I wonder, bro, if that was even right for Solomon to accept them cities, knowing, you see what I'm saying? Knowing that the means in which he procured these cities, And so, like a little interesting, bro. Like, so this chapter right now, bro, and I believe that probably I should have studied Deuteronomy a little more before we get into Kings, because sometimes the Bible just is lay out the facts. But the Bible sometimes it don't turn around and say, hey, remember how 4 books ago they were saying that this is wrong? Don't forget this part. You see what I'm saying? That's for you to remember and put 2 and 2 together. Like when, Samson, it's easy for me to draw parallels. When he found the dead lion and he eat the honey out of the lion's mouth. Mm-hmm. You ain't supposed to eat stuff out of dead animals. You become unclean. it was important for a Nazarite to become unclean. But the Bible don't just come out and say, oh yeah, he unclean himself, and then he passed it to his parents for them to be unclean. The Bible just say what he do. And now, if you put two and two together, you're like, bro, this man, he a little rebellious, this Samson. You see what I'm saying? And so I feel like I should have probably do a little more studying in Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and stuff like that before coming here, because it's certain stuff that Solomon doing where I feel like morally is wrong. Morally is wrong. You know, why are you putting these people to work? You see what I say? Why you don't expel them? You know what I mean? Was the instruction to kill them? What? Because what is forced labor, bro? That sound like what was spoken against in Exodus. You see what I say in Leviticus when they was talking about labor. And then guess what? After 7 years, was you releasing them? You done 20 years. You done this almost going on your third 7 year. You know what I mean? And they still working? Like how that work? You know, by the law, by the letter of the law. And then lastly, we have Hiram's displeasure with these cities. It could be said that he called them Kabul, and nobody thought to change the name. Up until this book was written, everyone was like, yeah, it's fitting name, it's Kabul. You know what I mean? Like, and so it could be said that Solomon didn't have any use for these cities, nor did he want these cities, so he just throw them off to you. You feel me? I can't negate that, even though I felt like that's not what was happening, Quite possible. So like, we look at all of this on the heel of God's speech to Solomon after building the temple, where God physically appeared. And this is the second time God physically appeared to Solomon. This ain't I talking to you through prophet or Urim. You know what I mean? This I coming to you one-on-one. Like, I coming to you. You see what I'm saying? And God is affirming him, bro, you got the keys to the city, bro. The ball is in your court. All you have to do is be good. That ain't easy to do, but it's doable because your father done it, And as a king, bro, you have the heaviest burden, and you will ask for wisdom to how to do it. You know what I mean? You have that. You have my support. You have my communication. All you got to do is do it.
Solomon has proved himself to be righteous before God, and the Lord affirmed him. Solomon has also proved himself to be selfless, asking for wisdom. And in doing so, the Lord blessed him with wisdom and prosperity. However, with Solomon's newfound wisdom, prosperity, fame, and fortune, Solomon is using his blessings for political and financial gain. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your host, Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.